For some more reflections now on the evolution and importance of the pageantry and ceremonies around King Charles' ascension to the throne, I spoke a short time ago with historian Alexander Cook from ANU.
Royal ceremonies have an ancient tradition really across the globe. They're about the transfer of political power and I suppose about stabilising continuity within a political system. So whichever country you go to, whether in Europe or indeed tribal societies in the Americas or elsewhere, usually there's some sort of ceremony or ritual around the transfer of political power. In Britain, these ceremonies have origins dating back to the Norman conquest and before that.
Interesting to look at the mood in the UK, Alexander. You've got the sombre nature of the reaction, understandable, many people mourning the passing of Her Majesty, but also a sense of gratitude after the longest-serving monarch in British history.
Yes, it's been quite striking, the outpouring of public grief, but also I think a kind of sense of a certain kind of joy in remembering the role she's played in people's lives. My sense is there's quite a lot of nostalgia actually in Britain at the moment. And it's been interesting that even many people who are not in principle supporters of the monarchy or of the British royal family have felt a certain amount of appreciation, I think, for the Queen's sense of duty, her commitment to her role, and for the stability she provided over more than 50 years.
To pick up on one of the points you made earlier about that need to establish certainty and continuity within a system like the constitutional monarchy in the UK, it's been quite stark, the dichotomy that the former prince, now King Charles III, has had to grapple with his personal grief, but taking on that enormous new role as well.
Yes, absolutely. It's, I'm sure, a great personal challenge for him, having just lost his mother. He's also, I think no one can deny, living through a period of significant family conflict and challenge. So the complexities in his personal life are substantial. And I'm sure it is difficult for him to take on the public role at this time. I think it's been quite interesting, actually, watching his attempts to navigate that and the way the public have responded to them. I think that actually there's been a significant growth in his popularity since the Queen's death. I think people have felt a certain amount of sympathy for his situation. And I think in many ways the unusually personal and sort of intimate way in which he's spoken about his mother on occasion has actually assisted him with the transition into the role of monarch, it seems.
I know that you've looked closely at the Republican movement and the prospects in this country over the years. The Prime Minister's very cautious about discussing anything of the sort at the moment. He says it's not the right time. When do you think that there will be renewed momentum, or at least attempts to push ahead with another Republican discussion?
I think it will come before very long. I think it's very clear that both the Prime Minister, more broadly the Australian Labor Party, and even the Australian Republican movement have decided that it's strategically unwise to push too heavily on the Republican issue just at the moment. They want, I think, to let people grieve for the Queen. I think they don't want to make the issue personal because they know there's a lot of affection for the Queen. But I do think that it's likely that there will be renewed discussion of the issue towards the back end of Labor's first term of government. If they get a second term, I think they will probably look at a referendum during that period. And I think they'll start laying foundations sooner than that. It seems as though many Republicans in Australia have been saying they didn't want to push the issue until the recently deceased Queen's reign was over. But if they're not going to push the issue now, it's unclear when they will.
When you look back at this reign of 70 years, Alexander Cook, how do you reflect on the contribution of Her Majesty, the longest-serving monarch, as we mentioned earlier in our discussion, in British history? And it seems that such a steady monarch over such a long period is quite extraordinary. That sense of duty she had from a very young age was something she sustained until her death.
Absolutely. I think she's been, in many ways, a kind of point of stillness in chaotic times for Britain, more broadly for the Commonwealth. I think it's clear that the popularity of the monarchy has risen and fallen over the course of her reign, and it's by no means always been easy sailing for her or for her family. There've obviously been a series of personal scandals. There've been a series of difficult political situations to navigate as well. But Britain's place in the world has changed enormously in the year since 1952, and Queen Elizabeth has had to, in some sense, preside over and watch the unravelling of the British Empire, the establishment of the Commonwealth, the process of Britain's joining the EU and then leaving the EU in relatively traumatic circumstances. And there's been a huge amount of social transformation in that era as well. The ethnic and cultural composition of the UK has changed enormously in the last 70 years. And I think that having presided over such a period of change while providing such a point of personal continuity, I think, has contributed to I think, her popularity and the sense of appreciation that many people have been feeling over the last week.
Historian in British history at the ANU, Alexander Cook, I appreciate your time and your reflections today.
You're very welcome.